Before we begin, a quick word from our sponsor. Supremacy 1914 is a free online PvP strategy game. Choose a real country to lead during World War I. Fight up to 500 other players in real time in games that can take weeks to complete. Use many different units to build your army and declare war on your neighbors, or forge alliances with other players. Choose your own strategy, engage in epic battles and take over the world. All of the different tanks, planes and even zeppelins appear in battles. You can play with the same account on both PC and mobile. You get an exclusive gift. Click on the link in the description to get 15,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. Offer only available for 30 days. Don't lose time. The special game was created for the first viewers to click the link. Details will be shared at the end of this video. In May 1913, Adolf Hitler, a 24-year-old dreamer and failed artist, had inherited the last of his father's estate. This money the result of his father Alois's 30 years in the Austrian customs service. Hitler used this small amount of money to fund a move from Vienna in Austria to Munich in Bavaria. In Vienna, Hitler had lived in men's shelters for years and eked out a precarious living selling paintings and postcards and working as a day labourer. He was underweight and rather sickly looking. He had also managed to avoid national service in the Austro-Hungarian army. However, on the 5th of August 1914, Hitler duly reported to a medical board in Salzburg and underwent an army medical examination. Unsurprisingly, due to his years as a homeless vagrant in Vienna, he was classified as unfit for military service, and he returned to Munich. In later years, Hitler explained that he was against serving in the multiracial army of Austria-Hungary, but this may have been a statement made in retrospect. However, when war broke out in August 1914, Hitler did not return to Austria to join up. Rather, because he identified very strongly as a German, he wanted to join the German army. The problem was, Hitler did not hold German citizenship. He certainly sounded German, having picked up a Bavarian accent when he and his family had lived at Passau on the border with Austria during one of his father's postings. Swept up in the wave of German nationalism that accompanied the outbreak of war, Hitler took the unusual step of writing to the King of Bavaria, Ludwig III, asking for permission as an Austrian to serve in the Bavarian army. This permission was granted, apparently in error. The Bavarians should have arrested Hitler and deported him to Austria for his military service. In 1924, they admitted that a clerical error allowed Hitler to join the German army. Hitler enlisted into the 1st Company, the 1st Battalion, of the 16th Bavarian Reserve Infantry Regiment, known as the List Regiment after its commanding officer. He completed a short basic military training course in Munich. Hans Mend, a fellow recruit, recalled how Hitler seemed enamored of his new rifle. He regarded it with the delight of a woman with her jewelry, while I secretly laughed to myself, wrote Mend. Hitler was noted by another recruit, Ernst Schmidt, to be a voracious eater, evidently making up for the lean years when he was a vagrant in Vienna. On the 8th of September 1914, the regiment's commanding officer, Colonel Julius von List, addressed the recruits, giving them a rousing speech. On the 8th of October, Hitler and his fellow soldiers swore oaths of allegiance to Emperor Wilhelm II and King Ludwig III. Following field training at Lechfeld on the Danube, the List regiment joined the new 3-regiment 6th Bavarian Reserve Division. On the 20th of October, the regiment boarded a train for the Western Front. Hitler was now to enter battle for the first time. The regiment detrained at Lille, Hitler's first experience of a non-German speaking country, spending 4 days in the city. Hitler saw the first effects of war, for the city was badly damaged, and could hear far-off artillery fire. The regiment would be going into action against the British, in a clash to be known to the British as the First Battle of Ypres, and to the Germans as the Battle of Langemarck. From Leerdegem in Belgium, the regiment marched to the front. On the 29th of October 1914, the List Regiment was sent forward to relieve a unit of Württembergers and suffered extremely heavy losses, particularly from artillery fire. Hitler and First Company advanced and withdrew 4 times until finally capturing the village of Gellewelt. The fighting was at times hand-to-hand. First Company, in a captured trench before Gellewelt Castle, fought elements of the Worcestershire Regiment and also a unit of the Black Watch, an ancient Scottish regiment. Hitler's company charged forward under artillery fire, fighting the British troops in beet fields and meadows. List Regiment casualties were crippling. 3,600 men entered combat, and in 20 days were reduced to only 611 fit men. First Company began the fight with 250 men and was reduced to 42, including Hitler. Hitler was appointed a regimental dispatch runner on the 9th of November 1914, after 11 days in action at the front. He joined what was termed the Battle Ordnance. He had somehow come through several attacks unscathed, being deeply affected by the death and destruction all around him, noting in his letters his pride in the List Regiment, the attacks, descriptions of comrades and officers killed or horribly maimed, and British troops being shot down, and the terrible artillery fire as his company cleared trenches. At one point a bullet tore off one of Hitler's sleeves, but he was untouched. Hans Mend, Hitler's comrade, later said of his friend, "With unbelievable toughness he endured the greatest strains, and never showed any weakness." The battle ordnance, to which Hitler also belonged, was far more exposed to enemy fire than the companies themselves, for while the latter could always find cover in the trenches, the ordnance staff were constantly on the move with messages. The regiment, partially rebuilt with conscripts, next broke through the British line north of Messines and turned the left flank of trenches held by the London Scottish, and a series of seesaw battles developed. But by now Hitler was acting as a regimental runner and was not involved in direct attacks on the enemy. In late 1914, the new regimental commander, Lieutenant Colonel Engelhardt, placed Hitler's name on a list recommending him for the Iron Cross Second Class, along with 4 other soldiers. On the 2nd of December, Hitler received the medal, awarded for gallantry and excellent performance of his duties as a runner. Of 8 regimental runners, including Hitler, 3 were killed and 1 badly wounded during the Battle of Weizsäcker. In 1932, Colonel Engelhardt gave more details of the award of the Iron Cross Second Class to Hitler he made in 1914. Quote, "Once, as I emerged from the wood at Weizsäcker during a fierce attack in order to make some observations, Hitler and an orderly from the regimental staff planted themselves bang in front of me to shield me with their own bodies from machine gun fire." End of quote. Hitler was also promoted to Gefreiter, analogous today to a lance corporal in the British Army or a private first class in the US Army. By early 1915, stalemate had caused both sides to dig in, and trench warfare with all its attendant horrors became the norm. So let's clarify Hitler's duties at this point. Hitler was described by a contemporary as a trench runner. His job was to keep up communications between regimental headquarters and the companies deployed on the front line, and his unit numbered 8 to 10 men. The men would transit backwards and forwards between the relative safety of regimental headquarters behind the lines to the company command posts on the front line. Such journeys exposed the men to artillery fire and sometimes enemy machine gun and rifle fire. In March 1915, the List Regiment occupied positions to defend the town of Neuve-Chapelle. A vicious battle developed following a British offensive there. The lines were confused during heavy fighting. Hitler recalled taking orders and reports to and from the front, by moving from shell hole to shell hole under fire, demonstrating that the regimental runners' duties were dangerous. The regimental commanding officer commented that he could not understand how his runners kept getting through under such heavy fire. Hitler and the other runners were under shell and sniper fire. Hitler the soldier was portrayed by his comrades as a reserved and very prudish man, but one full of strong opinions about the war and Germany. He made clear that the army was his whole life. His comrades noted that Hitler never received any parcels from home, and he had no interest in home leave. All of his contemporaries say that Hitler was completely dedicated to his duties and volunteered even for the toughest assignments. Even Alexander Moritz Frey, a medic who disliked Hitler and later became a science fiction writer and fled Germany after Hitler came to power, nonetheless wrote of Hitler, quote, "When people claim that he had been a coward, that's not true," unquote. Frey nonetheless thought Gefreiter Hitler to be a backstabber and a selfish individual who impressed only the youngest, most impressionable soldiers with his nationalistic rhetoric. During a long period of trench warfare, Hitler continued to operate as a runner. Normally, runners were dispatched in pairs in case anything happened to one of them. They carried leather dispatch cases and were armed normally with holstered pistols, leaving their rifles behind as they were heavy and an encumbrance when moving around quickly. The sealed dispatches were marked with 1, 2, or 3 crosses, indicating how urgently they must be delivered. It was noted in records and memoirs that Hitler was sent out under machine gun and artillery fire on numerous occasions, particularly during a British offensive in late September 1915. The List Regiment next transferred to the Somme. The British offensive that opened on the 1st of July 1916 raged on inconclusively for 3.5 months. The List Regiment spent 10 days in the front line near Bapaume, losing 120 men on average per day killed and wounded. A British shell landed in the runners' dugout, killing 4 of the runners and badly wounding 7 others. Hitler was struck in the face by a shell splinter, though not badly injured. On the 12th of October 1916, Hitler was wounded more seriously. During heavy fighting, Hitler had volunteered with one other man to get a message through. A shell splinter buried itself in Hitler's left thigh. He was later rescued by stretcher bearers from the battlefield. He ended up in a military hospital for 2 months at Beilitz near Brandenburg. After convalescence, he was sent to the regimental depot in Munich. Hitler wrote to regimental adjutant Captain Wiedemann asking to be allowed to return to the regiment at the front, writing that he could not tolerate being in Munich when his friends were at the front. Wiedemann arranged for Hitler to return to the regiment and to his old position of regimental runner, arriving on the 5th of March 1917. The List Regiment next saw action on the Ain River through the winter into 1918 before being withdrawn in January for rest. Hitler was noted to have been very interested in the bigger strategic picture, particularly the Russian Revolution that released hundreds of thousands of German troops from the Eastern Front for a last great offensive in the West, planned for March 1918. In more horrendous trench warfare, Hitler was noted as a food scavenger who'd go out with comrades to slice meat off the carcasses of dead horses. So hungry were German troops becoming in the last months of the war, as the Allied naval blockade of Germany bit deeply. One of Hitler's comrades, Ignaz Westenkirchner, noted of this period, quote, "We were nothing but a handful of tramps, mud from top to toe, not a whole tunic amongst us. We came out of the line over 1,200 men fewer than when we went in." Unquote. By late April 1918, the List Regiment was being subjected to terrific British artillery barrages, which added to the hunger and mud. When the regiment was eventually relieved on the 15th of May 1918, it amounted in size to just a single company's worth of fit men. Refitted and with fresh men, the regiment advanced within 50 miles of Paris during the last great German offensive, but took heavy casualties. On the 26th of May 1918, Hitler, while delivering a message, encountered and captured single-handedly a group of 8 French soldiers, marching them a couple of miles at pistol point to the nearest German lines. Soon afterwards, Hitler was awarded the Iron Cross First Class, an award rarely given to rank-and-file soldiers. He was recommended for this prestigious award by Lieutenant Hugo Gutmann, to whom Hitler and the other runners reported. Gutmann, a Jewish officer who had been awarded the Iron Cross First Class himself in 1915, wrote in his citation of Hitler, quote, "As a runner, his coolness and dash in both trench and open warfare have been exemplary, and invariably he has shown himself ready to volunteer for tasks in the most difficult situations and at great danger to himself. Whenever communications have been totally disrupted at a critical moment in a battle, it has been thanks to Hitler's unflagging and devoted efforts that important messages have continued to get through despite every difficulty. Hitler received the Iron Cross Second Class for gallant conduct during the fighting at Weizsäcker on the 1st of December 1914. He fully deserves to be awarded the Iron Cross First Class." Unquote. Hitler was also awarded a Bavarian Medal for bravery, the Cross of Military Merit, 3rd Class with swords. The grade of his medal determined more by his military rank, Lance Corporal, than the act of gallantry itself. Hitler was wounded again on the 15th of October 1918, at the end of World War I, temporarily blinded along with several other comrades during a British mustard gas attack. From a field hospital, Hitler was evacuated to a base hospital at Pasewalk in Germany, where on the 11th of November 1918 he learned that Germany had surrendered. At Pasewalk he received the new German wound badge, the only other military decoration that he would wear as leader of Germany in later years, alongside his Iron Cross First Class, the symbolism of the badge and the Iron Cross being obvious to the World War I veterans of the Nazi Party and the new army he created. Hitler was also given a service medal for World War I, the Bavarian Medal of Military Service, 3rd Class with swords. Following his discharge from Pasewalk Hospital, Hitler went to Munich, arriving on the 21st of November 1918. He was placed in 7th Company, 1st Replacement Battalion, 2nd Infantry Regiment. He was then used as a guard at a prisoner of war camp at Traunstein until January 1919. Returning to Munich, he sat in barracks for 2 months awaiting a new posting, while Munich dissolved into lawlessness as a revolution broke out in Bavaria. He was twice elected by his battalion soldiers to represent them, but he urged the troops to stay out of the conflict. On the 6th of May 1919, the Bavarian Socialist Republic was destroyed by army troops sent from Berlin. Hitler was a noted anti-communist, and so was allowed to remain in the army after his battalion was disbanded. His next job was at the administrative office of the 2nd Infantry Regiment in June 1919. Hitler was recruited as an undercover intelligence agent to spy on political activities in Munich, and in this capacity Hitler would join an insignificant little political party that met in the back of beer halls, the German Workers' Party. Hitler started giving speeches and joined the party on the 12th of September 1919. That party would eventually become the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party. Hitler was discharged from the Reichsheer in 1920, ending his formal military career. Supremacy 1914 is a free online PvP strategy game set during World War I. You get an exclusive gift. Click on the link in the description to get 15,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. The game name is Mark Felton and the password is also Mark Felton. Click in the link in the description, choose your country and fight your way to victory. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon, details in the description box below.